So you may have noticed the downside of quality on the camera today, right now. Yeah, without getting to specifics, I don't have most of my stuff anymore. Yeah, not happy about that. You might notice too, it's a different room than I've been in. It's, I moved, but not... Well, I'm trying to avoid specifics because something is pending. But let me put it this way, initially it was less than wanted. It was needed, but it was less than wanted. I'll just leave it at that, and because of that, I don't have most of my stuff. But we're not here to talk about that today. You also may have noticed, at least you are now, and yes, it's backwards, this is a big hint as to what I'm going to be talking about today. Last week, while I was technically homeless, I was with a friend, or actually staying with a friend, and we watched 2 movies in theaters. First time I got in for free because his friend paid for all 3 of our tickets. Second time he paid for it because he was like, I was dragging you with me, don't worry about it, I'll pay for it. He's a really good guy, and I appreciate everything him and his family have done. But, the first movie we saw was Divergent, and I have to admit, we got a storm coming. I have to admit, I actually liked it. I don't want to get into specifics on that, because there's just not enough for me to talk about, other than the fact that Shailene Woodley cannot act. That was my big problem. That and, Jai Courtney played one of them big bad guys in it, and he looked like Macklemore on steroids, and I just could not stop thinking about that. But yeah, Shailene Woodley, I don't see it. She just seems like she's in the high school play constantly, and I don't know how people think she's this great actress. I just can't figure it out. Well, Friday, we saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and in my last review, I mentioned how my next review is going to be long. It's probably going to be about bugs. Oh my god, where do I begin? I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. I'm going to get a lot of flack for the thing I'm going to mention being the best and most memorable part of the movie, because I know Spoonie already mentioned it. That's Dennis Leary's disapproving frown. 3-4 times in the movie, he's just standing there and goes... And he looks so upset. He doesn't look mad at Peter Parker. He looks mad that they cast him in this movie again. And I can't blame him, because this movie was terrible. Okay. You can't talk about this movie without talking about one of 3 things. And there's going to be spoilers. And the 3 things are the villains, Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, and the music. I'm trying to figure out how the music in this movie has been overlooked, and I'm going to cover the music here first because it does tie into a few things. Apparently, the city doesn't want me to talk about the music in this movie, but I'm going to anyway. Take that, lightning. Whoa, hail. Well, I think that's hail. Oh no, that might be, leaves dropping, whatever. I've heard people basically say that this is the Marvel equivalent to Batman and Robin. Now, I'll agree, but while Batman and Robin had the pink and green and multicolor lighting that overtook the panels and the canted angles, this has the most quirky, whimsical, contrasting music for an action movie, if you can call it that, or a superhero movie. I shit you not, at one point Electro is fighting Spider-Man in a power plant. And he's going through these Transformers, and as he's going through them, it goes doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. This wasn't meant to be funny, apparently, because I was laughing at how stupid it was, and the audience was looking at me like, why are you laughing? That, or it was so distorted because it sounded like Skrillex falling asleep that you could tell at first, but I don't know. But instead of like the original Spider-Man movies and even the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, they had this music that was really cinematic. In fact, I'm pretty sure the Amazing Spider-Man 1 reused the theme from the Spider-Man movies that Danny Elfman did. And it fit. With this one is no! This isn't a Disney movie! I know Marvel's owned by Disney, but the rights to Spider-Man went to Sony. Get that shit out of here! Do an actual cinematic soundtrack. Look at Captain America, or even Thor, as much as the Thor movies kind of bored me. At least the music fit with the themes of the movies. This one is... it's like a little kid musical with an adult themes. Now, while we're on the music, let's go to the villains, because I mentioned Electro and Itsy Bitsy Spider and me laughing at the unintentional hilarity. I'm going to start with the most unintentionally hilarious villain in this movie, the Rhino. He's in it for 2 minutes. Why bother? Why bother putting him in this movie? The beginning of the movie, there's a chase scene, and he stole an Oscorp truck of a highly volatile explosive. They make a point to say this several times. It's highly volatile, don't shoot it. Doors open up in the truck. The explosive's exposed. The police start shooting. You just told not to shoot at you. Really? Right at that moment, I went, oh great, this is the type of movie I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with one that the continuity is looser than a Tommy Wiseau film. Not 2 minutes. Don't shoot at them. Okay. Well, Rhino is defeated by being pantsed. Yes, I'm serious. They pantsed him and a gun fell on his head. But then he comes back at the end of the movie, where he is confronted by Miles Morales, who is inexplicably white. Oh yeah! Yeah, Miles Morales is in this movie for about 2 minutes too, and he's white now. But, I laughed, and I think you'll see why. He comes out in his Rhino suit, lifts the helmet, goes, "Behold, I am Rhino! I will crush you like Rhino!" Or something stupid like that. And I didn't hear it. What I heard is, "Behold, the Underminer! I am beneath you, but nothing is beneath me!" I laughed hysterically, and my friend goes, "What are you laughing at?" I'd said that, and he starts cracking up. Now, it's not just the Rhino who has stupid lines, or stupid motivations, or really bad acting, like Paul Giamatti's Russian accent. He is so overtop that he is the bad parody, yo! In Soviet Russia, you don't imitate accent, accent imitates you! It's worse than my accent, and my accent's pretty bad on that. But then you have Electro, and I don't know what they were trying to do with him. I really don't. Spider-Man saves him, says, "You're my eyes." He becomes obsessed with Spider-Man. I mean, like, deranged obsessed, like Kathy Bates in Misery obsessed. If he could find Peter Parker, he would break his legs with a sledgehammer obsessed. That's how deranged his character already is before he becomes Electro. Gwen Stacy remembers his name, he's immediately in love with her, and like, no! 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 But he's supposed to be mild-mannered and dorky until he falls into a vat of electric eels and becomes an electric being, because that happens all the time. Well, in the first confrontation, Spider-Man's trying to make peace and the cops screw it up. And he starts fighting Spider-Man, saying Spider-Man betrayed him. And his one-liner, yeah, this pretty much comes out of nowhere, is until you realize that earlier said it was his birthday, he goes, "It's my birthday, I'm gonna light my candles." What? Seriously, if they hadn't mentioned in what felt like an hour before that it was his birthday, I would have been like, why did he just say that? That is the dumbest fucking thing he could have said. He could have, if they're going to go with the pun, like, seriously, he was Mr. Freezing It Up from Batman and Robin. Why couldn't he go, "Here's something that will really shock you," or something stupid like that? Maybe it could... I skipped something here. Before he becomes Electro, Max Dillon has a gap in his teeth, like, bigger than mine. But you could tell they just painted a little black area because when he turns his head, you can't see through it. It's very obvious that you're supposed to be able to, but it's just solid black. Yeah. But then, anyway, Harry Osborn later on breaks Electro out of jail. And I gotta close this window because rain's getting in. Harry says something like, "Great, now we can be friends," or something stupid like that. Or, "You need a friend." And Electro, oh my god, I can't believe I'm repeating this part, goes, "I had a friend once, it didn't work out." And I bust out laughing again. Because I didn't picture him as Electro this time, I pictured him as Grumpy Cat. This whole movie is like this, okay? You're probably wondering why I'm not talking about the story. That's because there is none. There is no fucking story. There are stories, sort of. Like Harry is sick from a disease that his dad inherited and he inherited, and it makes no sense because they just didn't want to do Norman Osborn again or something like that, and it doesn't work out because by the time that's resolved, you just know he's going to become Green Goblin. And he does. But I want to know something. Okay, Marvel? Okay, actually, Sony. How come every character, when they become a villain, loses their mind? This is the biggest problem I have. Harry Osborn, before he even becomes the Green Goblin, like, he says he needs Spider-Man's blood, and Spider-Man refuses to give him the blood because he thinks the blood will cure him. And he goes, "Curse you, Spider-Man!" I'm not doing his high-pitched, whiny voice. But basically, he disowns Spider-Man, breaks into Ravencroft, breaks Electro out, and then he's all insane now! Why? I mean, seriously, why? You don't need to have villains that are batshit crazy. I mean, it works for the Joker. Joker's batshit crazy. But look at Bane. It works for Red Skull because he's a fascist. But look at the Winter Soldier. While he's insane, he's still very active and he's not over-the-top loopy. He's a very human character. Or, I hate to bring up Iron Man. Or Loki. Loki's deranged, but he has motivation. It's not just, I'm crazy, therefore I'm evil. And that's the big pattern I'm seeing in Spider-Man movies are... Rhino is over the top. Electro, over the top. Green Goblin, over the top, even before he becomes Green Goblin. In fact, he's more subtle as Green Goblin than he is between Harry Osborn and Green Goblin. Why? The guy who they're hinting at being Vulture, over the top. The guy they're hinting at being Doc Ock, because it's not going to be Otto Octavius, apparently. He's trying to see how much power Electro can withstand. And they keep on zooming in on their faces. And they're like this. It's like they're trying to film a close-up sex scene just focusing on faces. And it wasn't creepy, it was stupid. It was over the top. It was ridiculous. It was shit you would have seen in a 60s Batman episode, okay? And I felt dirty. Not just that I was watching this movie with these characters in it, but that I was even associated with Spider-Man. And you can see, Spider-Man's my favorite character. I learned to read through Spider-Man comics, and I'm watching this movie, and I'm going, well, this is just pissing on the legacy of my favorite hero. Let me put this in terms. This entire series is like if they decided to keep Timothy Dalton as James Bond. I mean, let's face it, Dalton was not a good Bond. Or Val Kilmer and Joel Schumacher as the actor and director of the next Batman movies. Can you imagine The Dark Knight with Val Kilmer and Joel Schumacher doing it? It just raises too many questions. And then there's the Green Goblin. Remember how I said about Rhino? Why bother introducing him? Same goes for the Green Goblin, but for a different reason. They build up to him pretty well, relatively, for the film. But once he becomes the Green Goblin, he gets kind of dumb. The big fight. Of course, Gwen Stacy falls from the clock, or he drops Gwen Stacy, and Peter initially saves her at first. Green Goblin's trying to cut the web, but Peter headbutts him and he's down. For the rest of the movie, he's down. That's it. One hit. A frickin' headbutt knocks him out. You know, let's disregard the fact that he's in this super suit, has enhanced strength and everything. A headbutt. And figuring this is Andrew Garfield, most of that is going to be hair, so it's not going to hurt a hell of a lot. You mean to tell me that's it? No! No, you're trying to build up to the Green Goblin being his arch-villain. And I'm looking, I was researching, apparently there's more scenes, like, after Gwen Stacy dies. Yeah, she dies. Get that. Figure that one out. Peter goes back and beats the Green Goblin nearly to death. But they said, oh, that'd be an R rating. No, it wouldn't. Okay, case in point, Spawn, PG-13. The main character walks around half the time with badly burnt skin. And they show him on fire, in pain, in the beginning of the movie. Don't tell me that the beating someone nearly to death will get you an R rating. Especially when you had people in this movie who were shot. You had... I'm trying to make sure it's the same movie I'm thinking of, because... No, I'm thinking of Divergent, where they had the whole pseudo-rape thing that wasn't in the fucking book, and that kind of pissed me off, too. But there's so many implications of violence in this movie that if they had just went through with it, it would have been fine. It wouldn't have been R-rated. It's not like they went around saying the F word. It's not like there was any intense blood or gore. It would have been blood. Not, hey, his skull is crushed, not Sin City style. Then there's another scene they said they cut out where Green Goblin cracks Gwen Stacy's neck. They showed worse in this movie. I mean, hell, when she dies, they don't even do her death the same way in the comic, which I kind of expected. But her head hits the floor with a... It's a pretty grisly sound. In fact, it's the only sound that fits this movie. They got away with that, but, oh, he snaps her neck. Oh, R rating. Oh, can't have a bloodless death unless she hits her head and makes a disgusting thud. Which leads me to the third problem. Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. I have everyone telling me how great their chemistry is together. No. No, it's not. She looks incredibly uncomfortable throughout the movie. Mainly, probably because Emma Stone, being as smart as she is, realizes that a superhero following you isn't sweet. Seriously, he is stalking her in this movie. He outdoes Edward Cullen. He's stalking her, watching her walk a dog, watching her go to this place, that place, pretty much watching her dress, and I'm thinking, don't you have, people to save? Spider-Man? When did you become this obsessed stalker? But no, it's perfectly fine because Spider-Man's a hero. No! No. These are criminals that he catches. If he caught anyone doing the same thing, he would beat the crap out of these people, and yet he's allowed to do it because, he's Spider-Man. No! Okay? You can't... If the cops can't get away with that, even in the movie, why can't he? Why the fuck can't he? And then the scenes where they're together... Gemma met me at work. My girlfriend met me at work one time, and we're talking to a coworker about this. And it's a scene where Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy are making ground rules about their relationship as friends. And I'm not... This is really how it works out. You should do that, that's adorable. You should do that, that's adorable. That's adorable. That's adorable. Oh, it's so adorable. We're adorable. It's like they're caught up in the fact that they think they're cute together. That they're not paying attention to what the audience is doing. Really, the audience would be watching this part, and I was watching this part going, oh my god, shut up. You guys aren't adorable, you're repulsive. It went from being told that it was supposed to send you to a diabetic coma to wishing I was in a diabetic coma because I was getting nauseated again. I went from diabetic coma to waking up to wishing I was in a coma. That's not what it's supposed to be. It didn't feel natural, it felt fake. It felt like they're trying to act like they're in love, and they really weren't. And that's the best thing I can say about it. They're acting like they're acting, and they weren't acting, if that makes any sense. They're acting like they felt the emotions, but they didn't. They weren't showing the emotions, they were telling you what the emotions were. They were telling you, oh, they're in love, by overacting it. They're pantomiming it. Peter crying over Gwen Stacy was pantomiming crying over Gwen Stacy. Electro's rage at the world of dejecting him is overemphasized by his stupid one-liners that are trying to sound more serious than they really are, and his casting him out as a nerd in the beginning of the movie. Like, quite literally, they overdo making fun of a nerd. His motivation. He wants credit for his power plant run by electric eels, because electric eels put out that much power now. Yeah, I'm harping on the electric eels, too. Seriously, why? But that's his whole motivation is, I want credit for this, and I want people to stop picking on me. No. Give us a villain with a steady motivation. Give us a villain with an actual motivation, not just, I'm pathetic. Everyone hates me. That's why Doc Ock, well, bad example on Doc Ock, because he didn't have necessarily the greatest motivation in the world. He wanted to bring his wife back, though, and he wanted to find a way to get revenge for losing his wife on Oscorp. Norman Osborn in the original movie went insane. The Joker's motivations, basically he wants chaos. I know that's Batman, but, there's a motivation. You can have that motivation and be a villain. And it's a better motivation than, they made fun of me, I'm gonna kill them. That's not a motivation for a serious action movie. That's a motivation for High School Musical or a Disney movie about kids or something like that. I'm watching this movie half expecting a musical number about being a naked blue electric man, and oh god, he looks like a hobo Dr. Manhattan. Okay, I've been holding that back for so long. Electro looks like a hobo Dr. Manhattan. I know in the Ultimate Comics he's a being of blue electricity, and I know the green and yellow costume would look stupid on camera. But why did he look like a hobo Dr. Manhattan? Even when they get him in this black jumpsuit costume, which I'm trying to figure out how that works, he looks like he's in a unitard with an electric bolt on it. And I gotta think to myself, where did they get that? The Spider-Man costume looks better than the old one. His eyes aren't yellow anymore and doesn't have the stupid spikes on it, or not spikes, but flourishes that the original had, like 2 blue fingers or anything. But that just means they went with a costume that looks like Spider-Man, not an interpretation. And that's kind of nitpicking at this point. They cut out MJ, saying they didn't want to introduce too many characters, but they have Felicia Hardy. Know what her purpose in this movie is? I mean, take a guess. Felicia Hardy, Black Cat. You're probably thinking she's a thief, right? No, she tells Harry where he can find information to cure himself. Why did that need to be Felicia Hardy? Exactly. Why couldn't that be anyone else? Like, say, his dad? Or Gwen Stacy? Or a random person? Why did you introduce Felicia Hardy for that? That is like... Okay. For the longest time with The Dark Knight, they were saying that Anthony Michael Hall's character, who is trying to expose Bruce Wayne as Batman, is actually Edward Nygma or Edward Nashton, the Riddler. You know how dumb that would be? It would lead to the same question I'm asking now about Felicia Hardy. Why did that have to be Riddler? It would have made more sense if it was Hugo Strange, but why would it have to be him either? Why couldn't it just be some guy who goes, hey, I'm putting 2 and 2 together, Bruce Wayne is Batman? That's what this role was like. It's like, hey, Felicia Hardy, secretary to Harry Osborn, because that's a woman's job, right? Secretary. That's another thing that irked me. His secretary's in the meeting, and Harry goes, hey, you, pretty girl, what's your name? She goes, Felicia. You deal with her, she's my secretary. I'm like, okay. Why did that have to be a woman? Why did he have to draw attention to the woman? Oh, because she's attractive. Yeah. Harry's character needs punched in the face. The writers need punched in the face. Everyone who acted in this movie, and I hate to say that about Dane DeHaan because he was great in Chronicle, needs to be punched in this face, or their faces. Paul Giamatti needs to be punched in his face. Twice. Anyone associated with this movie needs to be punched. And no, okay. Disclaimer. I'm not saying punch them in the face. I'm just saying they need it. I'm not saying do it. There's a difference. There's a loose difference, but there's a difference. Just... I'm not condoning violence. I'm just saying sometimes it's needed, but don't do it. Okay. I'm not making a lot of sense. I feel like a hypocrite, and I apologize. But don't do it. Now, I'm trying to think of what else to talk about this movie, because I pretty much ranted on everything that is new to this movie. Everything else is pretty much... Oh! Another plot point they try to introduce is Peter Parker's dad being a scientist who is helping Oscorp, but found out Oscorp was going to weaponize the experiment, and blah, blah, blah. Seriously, they introduce it in the movie, and they never explain it until they get to Green Goblin, and they gotta just fizzles out. The experiment is spider venom being used as a weapon to make super soldiers, and that's it. Well, obviously it didn't work if Green Goblin could be taken out with a headbutt. I mean, come on. Really? But Norman Osborn dies from the disease, and apparently there's going to be this big, huge thing where his head's frozen, and the man in the shadows, the gentleman they finally announce, or Mr. Fierce, or Mr. Savage, or whatever they call him like 4 different names in this movie. He walks up to Norman Osborn's head and says, "It's time to wake up, my old friend." But then he walks through this hallway. You see Vulture's wings, Doc Ock's arms. Everyone knows about this part. And that's when they do the Rhino thing. And I'm looking at it going, if this is how you're going to introduce the Sinister Six, just stop. I mean, this is the problem with this movie. They're not writing the movies. They're letting the fans write the movies. And the problem with that is not everyone can write. Okay? Let's be flat out. If you like writing, go practice it. Get good at it before you actually try to get something published. That's what I'm doing. I'm still practicing my writing. I'm still practicing my art. I'm still, doing the videos, trying to make the best videos I can with my abilities. They're not great production value or anything, but I'm practicing. So I'm not saying don't follow your... I'm not saying don't follow your dreams. Follow your dreams by any means. But if you're making a movie, if you're writing a movie, don't be so fucking stupid to stray from your ideas to go with what everyone wants. There are aspects of these movies that aren't going to work, and the Sinister Six is one of those aspects. That being, or the reason being, you're introducing too many characters in too fast of a time. That's what was wrong with Batman and Robin. You had Bane, you had Batman, you had Robin, you had Batgirl, you had Poison Ivy, you had Mr. Freeze. All of them vying for screen time, and Alfred dying. In this, you have Electro, Green Goblin, Rhino, Gwen Stacy, Peter Parker, Felicia Hardy, Mr. Fierce Gentleman Savage Man. They hit at Craven, or Mysterio. Vulture, Doc Ock. All these characters are vying for screen time. Peter Parker's dad, Aunt May. Norman Osborn. Dennis Leary. There are so many plot points that they don't make a cohesive whole. Instead, what they're doing is they're introducing these plot points to go into the next movie, hoping it will entice you, and that's not working. Then they're saying, well, the Sinister Six, because the fans are demanding it. Yeah, well, you're introducing them this much at once without characterizing them. These characters need room to breathe. They are epic characters. You can't just introduce Doc Ock in a movie with a bunch of other villains and go, hey, that's your Doc Ock. Now, in contrast, the Avengers, they introduced Hawkeye and the Avengers. The reason it worked is because, well, Hawkeye was the only character introduced in the Avengers. You knew about Tony Stark. You knew Captain America. Well, you knew Tony Stark. You knew Captain America. You knew Thor. You knew Black Widow from Iron Man 2. You knew Nick Fury. You knew Loki. With this, they're introducing so many characters at once that you don't know any of them. And that's the problem they're going to have. By the time you get to the Sinister Six movies, you're still not going to care about the characters because you're not going to know about them. They hint at Venom in this movie because they're going to make a Venom spin-off. And at one point they mentioned Eddie Brock as your eye in the sky, Eddie Brock. And I'm surprised no one caught that. That's all we know, is apparently now he's a helicopter reporter. He's your eye in the sky. What's going to be his motivation? Oh, well, this symbiote suit attached to me. I hate Spider-Man now. Okay. As it turns out, that's my motivation. J. Jonah Jameson has an off-screen cameo. Peter sends him a picture and says, this is like one of the few funny moments I laughed at in this movie. Actual funny moments. But, Peter says in the message, maybe you should consider he's a good guy. And the reply back is just one word. Wrong! But we can't introduce him as an actual character. Even as a cameo, it's just a faceless entity now. Seriously, they cut out MJ because, oh, we have too many characters, or we're going to have too many characters. No, there's no going to have too many characters. You already do. And the problem I'm having with it is because fans are becoming, well, not just fans, but people who are just introduced to the comics from the movies are becoming overzealous and demanding to see all these characters. Well, no, movies are a time-consuming thing to get right. The reason Nolan's Batman trilogy, the Dark Knight trilogy, worked so well is because Nolan didn't bullshit around going, okay, let's rush these movies. He took his time. He wanted the movies to look a certain way, to feel a certain way. He wanted them to be cohesive in themselves as well as a trilogy. He wanted them to work as movies. The Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, for the most part, same way. They don't introduce everyone at once. They introduce these characters and give them room to breathe in throughout all the movies. With this, you're introduced to the characters and go, you know them from the comics, right? Okay, there you go. That's our villain. That's our hero. And it's not working. It's not fucking working at all. That's what really has me nervous about the X-Men movie, Days of the Future Past. Yeah, you're introduced to Colossus, but you barely know him. Wolverine, Shadowcat, all these characters you're already introduced to. But you've been... Other than Wolverine, what do you know about the characters that are going to be in this movie? Well, Wolverine, Xavier, Mystique, and Magneto. You don't know anything about Quicksilver in the movie universe, in the relative universe to the movie, or Scarlet Witch. You know some of the characters from First Class, but very little in comparison to what you should know about them. Honestly, that's also why I think an X-Men movie doesn't work, but that's a different topic. We're talking about Spidey here. They do this and expect people to like it, and they're wondering why it's getting lambasted, why people are laughing at it. why it's being called why other people are calling it the Batman and Robin of the Marvel Universe. It's because they're rushing it. They're not paying attention to what's needed. They're paying attention to what's wanted. And you can't always get what you want, but you can get what you need. To paraphrase the Rolling Stones and just about every thematic episode of House. And I'll blame myself on this too. I'm a fan of Spider-Man. Not these movies, but of Spider-Man. And there are characters I want to see get the proper big screen treatment. But my years of watching movies, of taking film classes, art classes, there's a certain nuance you have to do. There's certain rules you have to follow to make a good movie. And if Sony wants to do this right, if they want to make everything right by Spider-Man fans, they're going to have to find a different creative team. Simple as that. Because this creative team is murdering the franchise. It's not working. Go to the drawing board. Try again. In all seriousness. It's what a writer would do. Stephen King does it. Clive Barker does it. J.K. Rowling does it. George R.R. Martin does it. Writers do this. Artists do this. Editors do this. Reporters do this. Hunter S. Thompson did it. Fear and Loathing wasn't written in one draft, people. There are things that don't work that need to be taken out. And that's the problem with the Amazing Spider-Man franchise. They're not taking what needs to be taken out. They're leaving everything in to appease the fans, and it's not working. I will say this about the movie. Oh god, I had it. Seriously, I did actually have something good to say about it, and Stan Lee's cameo. He's in the, graduate... that's... Okay. I'll get to the cameo, but there's something else that I'll get into about this cameo. But he's in the graduation audience, turns his head to see Peter Parker dressing in his graduation gown, but he forgot to take his mask off, and Stanley goes, "Wait, I know him!" It worked. Okay, it worked. But if you didn't know Gwen Stacy was going to die in this movie, this is another big problem. There is no hammer of subtlety in this movie. Gwen Stacy's valedictorian speech, which, by the way, Emma Stone, I appreciate what you're trying to do by saying Gwen Stacy's the brain and Peter Parker's the brawn. Peter Parker's supposed to be a genius, though. Okay, so yeah, he's got plenty of brains himself. That goes to you, Mark Webb, and whoever wrote this movie. Peter Parker is supposed to be smart, not a hipster, not a moron. Well, her speech is literally that you should cherish life because at any moment you'll die. As soon as she said that, my reaction is, oh, like you will later in this movie. Yep, sure enough, she dies. But yeah, I will say this much about the movie. It's that at least it doesn't feel like they aren't taking it seriously. They are taking it seriously, but in the wrong direction. And it broke my spirits for any future Spider-Man film, because literally, if the second one's supposed to be better than the first in this trilogy, or this set of movies, it's only going downhill. But I don't regret seeing it. The reason I don't regret seeing it is because I watched this movie, and I came out with Dennis Leary's disapproving frown, and my first reaction wasn't, I am going to jump into traffic while it's, highway traffic. My first reaction wasn't, I want to put a bullet in my head. My first reaction wasn't, I want to slip my wrists in my bathtub or overdose on pills. My first reaction after seeing this movie wasn't suicidal at all. It wasn't even homicidal. It wasn't. Seriously, it wasn't. My future thoughts afterwards were, but my thoughts right after the movie weren't. No. What this movie did well is it made me think right afterward, I'm in a theater. I'm going to see a movie. Because I literally, for about 10 seconds, repressed that memory of that movie. And I went to my happy place of being in the movie theater, about to see a movie that may be good, may be bad, may be absolutely amazing. No pun intended. There, at least. And then I remembered that I just exited seeing The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and went, well, I don't want to die. Mainly because the memory's kind of faded because I'm repressing it so much. I wasn't grinding my teeth like I was over the first movie. I wasn't seething with anger because I realized there were laughs. Mainly unintentional parts that I was laughing at, but there were laughs. What this movie did well was quite simply, it didn't make me want to die. It didn't make me want to commit myself to an asylum. It broke my spirits, but I'm still alive. It did a passable job of that, okay? Seriously, I don't regret seeing the movie, but don't see it. If you're a Spider-Man fan, don't bother. It's not worth it. Anyway, I'm going to end this review here. I've been ranting about this movie as long as I thought I would, surprisingly, but it's been a pretty long time. Next week, I will be starting a review on Wolfenstein: The New Order, and I'm hoping, if all goes well, I'll be reviewing Watchdogs. I'm looking forward to that. Also, somewhere down the line, I do want to try to get another camera because I want to get back to recording Let's Plays of Outlast. I want to start with Whistleblower, but I'm going to go back and do Outlast itself as well. And with the setup in my room, I can actually have the TV in front, being recorded, and I can see the TV still without anything in the way, until I find a way to get Dazzle to work where it's not going to look jaggy. I hate recording the TV through a camera, but it's what I have to do right now. But if there's any reviews you guys want to see or Let's Plays, let me know. I still want to try to get into that. I'm not going to have the PS3 for much longer. Not just because financial needs, but I got to the point where I've played every PS3 game I desire to play, and I just don't have the motivation to go back. So I want to concentrate on the PS4. Somewhere down the line, I also want to do some lower-end PC games until I either get a better computer. I want to do a Let's Play of Brutal Doom. Yeah. Oh, I have plans for that. But I also want to do some funny extended Let's Plays. I may do the Amazing Spider-Man game, or both of them. The first game was actually really, it was pretty good, and I want to play the second one because I've heard it's terrible. But I don't want to pay full price for it. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, whether you agree, disagree, anything I've missed. Keep in mind, again, my opinion, but you can have your own. You're welcome to your own. We're all people here, right? But I will see you guys later.